And you're looking at San Diego. I happened to take that picture a couple of years ago. It's from San Diego Airport, Sheraton Hotel, looking towards downtown, of course. That's the harbor, and you can't see it, but to my right, oh, that way, no, that way, uh, is the Seaport Village. That's where I live. And it's just a beautiful place to be. Someday, you're all welcome to visit me in San Diego.
I'll
We'll have
definitely,
a party.
yes, I'll take you up on the offer.
Welcome, Tatiana St. Germain. And this is all about talent assessment, leadership development on the corporate level. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Ed, for having me. Again, it's been too long.
Yeah, I know. And thank you for being a member of the Global Press Club. I really appreciate that. So the concept for today's program is um, who is being trained for leadership? I guess the answer would be anybody who can be qualified for that. So what would make a talent qualified for leadership training, leadership development?
We're all leaders in some shape or form, in business and in life. So when people ask me who is a leader, what defines leadership, you don't have to have direct reports to be a leader within the organization. And therefore, as we're talking about leadership development and growth opportunities, personal development, it would apply to anyone because part of leadership development programs, what we often see is understanding yourself, being really self aware about your strengths and weaknesses, and then gathering input from people around you about how you show up. So, all of that data combined gives you a lot of good information about where you are and where you want to be and what that journey from point A to point B would look like.
So tell me about the role of this concept, psychological safety in the workplace. Psychological safety to engender, to inform, to create a feeling of love and kisses, of course, but safety of not being ridiculed or made fun of or put down if I say something that needs to be corrected. So psychological safety in the process of leader training, leader development.
Um, Safety is internal, just like the name implies. Psychological safety, it's internal for each person. Just like motivation is internal, you can't motivate people, but as a leader, your job is to create the environment where people feel self motivated. So it's the job of a leader to create the environment where everyone feels comfortable enough to have an uncomfortable conversation with someone because confrontation is not necessarily something that leads to conflict or open conflict or sort of a cold war conflict between two people or a group of people. It can be defined as search for the truth, and that may require some difficult conversations. But from my experience in coaching, even what's perceived difficult conversations is not actually, it doesn't pan out to be difficult when people go ahead and have a discussion, and it's all in their heads. So safety, again, it goes both ways. If we have two people who need to address an issue between themselves, they each um, have this mindset that could prevent them from having a good discussion. So the solution to that is to not come into the conversation with a preconceived notion. Don't be attached to the outcome. Don't be attached to the outcome like a confrontation. It will become a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you are going into a meeting and I'm gonna fight. I'm gonna have to fight because they don't listen to me. They never listen to me. And then of course it's going to be because it becomes part of your aura, part of your energy. So again, all the development work starts within you. You have to have a different mindset. You have to reframe things. And this is what we work on through coaching. And what helps us define what are most mission critical steps for development. That's where assessments come into play, because I need to know if you're introverted or extroverted. Do you want to be liked by people, or you would rather avoid small talk and just get straight to business? Because that's going to impact your style, how you're going to have that difficult conversation. Same thing with assertiveness. Um, and then how you show up, that's a 360 assessment. That's going to educate us about how other people see you as a leader. So it's, to answer your question, it's a complex perhaps question. It's a big question, but we can make it. We can start small, start or look inward, and understand yourself first. What does safety mean to you, and what would you like the outcome to be? Focus on the issue, not the person, and then it will become safe because you will be able to strip away some of the emotions, and you will focus on the issue, and other people won't be offended because you're talking about the issue. So there's multiple ways to approach that situation depending on the individual leadership DNA of the person I'm working with.
So let's talk about the same topic, psychological safety, but from the point of view of the boss, the the senior manager who's doing this leadership, uh, picking who they want to have in a leader development program, because not everybody can do that. But so doesn't the whole feeling, the whole culture come from the top? And then how that leader behaves, talks, or sets the stage for this kind of training to be to begin, rather than I could be fearful of saying the wrong thing and getting fired, or somebody on the C-suite team that doesn't like my black shirt, you know. So I should wear a tie with the black shirt. No, so you know that kind of psychological safety. It all comes from the top, doesn't it?
Culture definitely is set from the top. And when organizations implement leadership development programs, when I'm involved, more often than not, I am going to request that everyone at the leadership level participates. Everyone needs to show. So how can you ask your leadership team to do something that you as a CEO not willing to do? Can you? Of course you can. You have a choice. But let's talk about the impact on the team, and let's talk about the results of the program, as you're just going to continue to have that blind spot if you don't participate and don't get the feedback on yourself. I completely agree with you.
We're back with Tatiana St. Germain, and we've been talking about psychological safety and both sides of it. Mine as the trainee, and hers as the boss, the leader. And I mentioned I need to feel psychologically safe as the trainee, and the person who's aspiring for a leadership role. And Tatiana has a responsibility, in my view, to set the stage, to plant the seeds for psychological safety to grow in the minds of the talent. And that means being, conducting themselves in a non-threatening manner, and as not to be the Pope, but to be a leader, providing safety and comfort and um, a no fault kind of environment. Would you agree?
I to a degree, I think it depends on the person. We are all created unique, and painting everybody and all the policies and your approach with the same brush. And people say, well, for consistency, I want to do the same thing for everyone. I want to talk to everybody in the same way. Well, some people want direct communication. Other people want you to ask them about their pets and their kids and their vacation before you get to the point. So it really depends, and that's the sensitivity, the awareness of others and management of others, one of the four pillars of emotional intelligence. You must recognize the needs of your people. Um, and assessments certainly help in that respect, because I use it myself with my team. I know my style, my natural style, and when I'm in a rush, when I'm have deadlines and we have 5 minutes to get 10 things done as a team or myself, and I need to delegate a task to one of my team members, I wanted to make sure that if I am short with them, they don't take offense to that. So we had one-on-one conversations discussing my DNA, how I behave and react to stimuli, my natural wiring. I'm a fairly direct person, and how my employee, who is very agreeable and accommodating, I didn't want her to look into my being short in giving directions as, oh my gosh, Tatiana doesn't like something I do, something I did. Yeah, I don't want this to spin out of control. So, in order to control the narrative, I preemptively had the conversation, look, we are different people, and this is me and this is you. I want to empower you to come to me with anything. If you have questions, if you have concerns, if you think I'm leading this driving this bus off the cliff, you've got to stop me. You've got to come to me and tell me. So it's beyond having the open door policy, quote unquote. It's actually living that open door policy. And I invite them, I encourage them, and I do this twice a week because both of my team members are extremely accommodating. They're super nice, and they're very diplomatic. So they're not going to cut to the chase and always push back on me. I have to constantly invite them. At the same time, they're also aware that if I'm very direct with them on occasion, I am not harboring any ill intent. My intent has been communicated. So communicating the intent before you give direction to your team member can be very helpful as well to avoid some misunderstandings. So again, I really encourage all leaders to look at themselves, know what makes them tick, and then start to be an observer of themselves, how they interact with other people, and observe those people. Ask them questions. How often do you want to meet for feedback? I was just working with a leader who said he does quarterly one-on-one meetings. And I'm cringing inside, and I told him so, because you know how much can happen in a quarter? Things happen on a weekly basis. I actually have people who meet with their team members every day for 15 minutes, team huddles, one-on-one huddles, because they don't want to miss the opportunity to redirect and or miss the opportunity to support the person on a psychological personal level, because who knows what might be going on in their lives. And if you're not in tune, if you're not paying attention, all you will notice is their performance is going down and you're wondering why.
Would you ask them the direct question, what's going on in your life? Do you want to share anything? I'm not interested in prying. I'm interested to know where you're coming from. Are you here to escape something that's not right for you at outside of work?
Yeah.
And does it show in my performance?
Mhm.
Blah, 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 that kind of thing. And so wouldn't that be an avenue of communication?
Yeah, and I encourage leaders to d- kind of play around with a couple of ways to ask the question, because how you would ask that question needs to be authentic to you, and how I ask this question may be different. Um, I find that because I don't know if my perception is correct. Like my spidey senses might be tingling, and I'm thinking, okay, something is off with this person, but how do I spotlight that without prying, like you said, and without offending somebody? So I'm just going to put it on myself, and if I want to tackle this, I will approach them and say, I'm I'm my feeling, I could be off, but I have this feeling that something is going on,
Yeah.
and just shut up. So it's about me. I could be off. I welcome them to say, no, Tatiana, you're off. There's nothing going on. But at least in a kind of easier going way, I'm opening the door, and it's up to them to walk through it.
So I wanted to also ask you about this thing called imposter syndrome, and when you see it, how do you discuss it? Yeah, the imposter syndrome is um, uh, being afraid or not thinking yourself worthy of being a boss in training. Um, and so how do you deal with that?
Like safety, imposter syndrome is internal. It's in your head. It's part of your mindset. So this is where coaching becomes professional therapy. In a way, this is what my one of my clients actually called it, because we need to break down this feeling and help the leader understand that it's not true that you have to prove something to someone. So what are you trying to prove? To whom are you trying to prove it? And do you need to prove anything? Is this feeling rooted in reality? Is it the truth? Usually it's fears or some background that they have in their lives that they had to prove, they felt like they had to prove themselves to their parents or to their peers. Or what I often find is younger leaders feel like they need to prove themselves to others, to their boss, to their team, to their organization. And the reality is, if you asked anybody around them, they would say, "Oh no, he's amazing or she's amazing," and that's why they're in this place. So it's helping the leader to remember that, hey, they hired you for this. So what is it that you are contributing already? What is the truth of your situation, of your position? You don't need to prove anything. The reason we talk about the imposter syndrome and why it's important to overcome it is because it actually hinders leaders' progress, and it slows down achievement of the results they're looking for. It makes their presentations more tense. It it's just it's a limiting belief, and that's usually when we have limiting beliefs that rule our world in the workplace. We certainly not seeing the full picture, and we're not achieving optimal results. That's why it's important to tackle it.
When you conduct these kinds of sessions, is there a future position that you have in mind? You as the boss, as the leader of the organization, are you looking at me, for instance, are you looking at me as a potential vice president of a division or leader of a country?
As part of coaching, like coaching up to the next level, is that what you're
Yeah,
asking?
yeah. I mean, because that will take a certain kind of instruction, guidance.
Sure. I start all of my coaching engagements with one question. What do you want? And it's a very big question. And then we break it down into components. What do you want to achieve in your current position? And what do you want from career and life? And more importantly, why? There's so many leaders I talk to. They say, I want to be president. I want to be CEO. I want to be CFO, what have you. They don't they they don't focus on the significance of that title. What why is it so psychologically important for them to get that title? What does the title represent? So I'm not trying to talk them out of this aspiration, but they need to know why they want to be at that level. And oftentimes we find that they actually, it's not about the title, it's about creating legacy, it's about impacting people in other ways. And so once they put a fine point on this, what is it that they actually want to accomplish in their career? Let's say impacting people, they all of a sudden see all these other avenues and pathways that they can accomplish that. And so Coaching is no longer about getting them to that next level. Coaching is about how can I accomplish my life's goals.
Interesting. So as we come to a close in the next few minutes, what do you have coming up, either later today or this week, that you would like to tell the audience about?
Um, well, there's a lot of coaching and leadership development work going on right now, to the point where I had to pull back on some of my speaking engagements. I recently conducted a workforce trends webinar, and we shared lots of interesting statistics about the changing environment in the workplace, both in terms of hiring and the shortage of talent and leadership, shortage of good leaders too. Um, and so we will continue in that vein, I believe. So in the fourth quarter, I'm expecting to conduct my usual leadership development webinar. But so far, just keeping steady and working with my clients and networking with amazing partners and driving driving the message to everyone that yes, you can accomplish the impossible of building a workplace where people love to come to work. And you just need to understand the people. They're the foundation of your business, and use assessments. Best in class companies use assessments to hire the right people and develop the right talent.
So let me ask you a couple of questions here,
Mhm.
and you can deflect or redirect if you don't want to answer these. It's okay. Number one, to what extent are you able to help an executive recruiter, for instance, have discussions and in other words, applying the talent assessment routine to help an executive recruiter understand who and what they're dealing with?
Um, Executive recruiters within organizations, so corporate recruiters, are interested in placing the right people in the right positions, or I would hope so. So they need to identify, first of all, they need to understand what success looks like. And that also requires data-driven solutions like assessments. They also provided data point that's unbiased, that's free of unconscious bias. So we measure top performers. We understand what top performance looks like. We create these unicorn profiles for all critical positions. And that empowers both recruiters and hiring managers to make this the best decision possible when they're screening their candidates, because then they can engage in job matching. They can put those people in positions where they thrive, as opposed to putting them in the roles that are, they're not fit. Imagine wearing shoes that are 2 sizes too small. It's just uncomfortable. Yeah, you can do it for the right amount of money and benefits, but it's not comfortable. So it's not sustainable. So I think this is where recruiters can up their game, so to speak, and deliver the best results for their organization.
Great. Thank you so much for your time here today. How can people reach you?
I am pretty active on LinkedIn. I'm the only Tatiana St. Germain, Tatiana with a Y, LinkedIn. Or you can go to greatpeoplemanagement.com and look at our team and look at our contact information there. There's a lot of interesting content. We have active blog and podcasts, and again, lots of good information on LinkedIn.
Right. Thank you for being on Global Business News TV. Please come back.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Pushing the right button.